Lea ua mātou whaantasi ma le sunga ia Peter Brunt. O ia o le polofesa lango-lango o tala whaasolopito, ia po le art history fo I le Universite o le Te Herenga Waka Victoria University. O ia o le tustala ma o se tasi fo I o tusi sa ia avea I ma tustala wa whaingoina o le Tatau, Samoan Tattoo, New Zealand Art, Global Culture. Whaatalo whantu lau sunga Peter. Talofa Peter.
Talofa lava.
Thank you for taking the time out of your day to be with us this morning. Now, Peter, congratulations on the launch yesterday of the Samoan Tattoo New Zealand Art Global Culture book. Before we do get into that, would you just like to let us know what villages in Samoa are you from, and also a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I'm a New Zealand-born Samoan, but both my parents migrated from Samoa to Auckland. So I grew up in Kingsland in the 1950s and 60s. My father's line really traces back to the village of Lano in Tuivaiti, and my mother's village is Waiala, near Apia.
Yes.
Yeah, but they were both born, so they both had Samoan mothers and European fathers. So I inherit that mix.
Awesome, Peter. Now, a little bit about the book. Can you tell us about what is the Samoan Tattoo New Zealand Art Global Culture book? Well,
the book is primarily about the work of a Pākehā photography, Palangi photography by the name of Mark Adams, who, along with a New Zealand painter, Tony Thomason, befriended Soloape Paulo II. And that friendship really kind of opened up this opportunity for Mark Adams, who's a well-known New Zealand photographer, to go into Samoan homes and to photograph people either in the act of being tataued or, standing for a kind of more formal portrait afterwards. And he did this for over between 30 and 40 years, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's so the book is kind of a distillation of some of his work over that period of time.
Yeah.
And of course, I should mention that it is a republication of a book that came out earlier, but much more lavishly and updated with a new preface and conclusion. So that's the nature of this new book.
Now, you mentioned there are three of you who wrote the book. It's atolu o tō na tūsia le tūsi lea. Na whape whiana tō ngā luloi whaatasi ina ia mawhaiona tū whaatasia le tūsi nei. So there were three of you who wrote this book. How did you all collaborate together to bring to life some of these images and also, collaborate together on the book?
Yeah, well, the three of us... So there's Sean Mallon, who's a curator at Te Papa, and also Nicholas Thomas, who is an Australian scholar who is at the University of Cambridge in the UK. So we know each other. We've worked on different projects before, and each of us came to Mark's work from our own kind of direction, really. I was involved in an early exhibition of Mark Adams's Tatau photographs. Sean has been studying Tatau for decades now. It's really he's the real expert on Tatau, and Nicholas and Mark have also collaborated on a number of other projects and continue to collaborate, actually. So we all knew each other. I think it might have been Sean who pulled us together on this particular project, given his position at Te Papa. This is a Te Papa publication. But we do different things in the book. So I write primarily about Mark Adams' photographs. Sean writes about the kind of the contemporary culture of Samoan Tatau, and also has this interview with Paulo. And then Nicholas in the book has an interview, a kind of dialogue with Mark. So we hear Mark's voice through that interview with Nicholas.
So good. So each bringing different strengths to the table and collaborating together with this book. Now, you mentioned it's a republication. So what inspired you to write this book, to bring it to life again?
Well, I think, the main reason is that the initial book was hugely popular and apparently sold out very quickly. So it had a small print run. So, there's been no more copies. People have been interested in it. They're hard to get. Impossible to get that first edition. So in a way, it was a no-brainer to reprint it.
Yes, definitely with all the success.
Yes, but it's a much more lavish, and it's a book that I think does justice to the quality of the work. So that's been a real treat, actually, to see Te Papa produce a book like this. And Mark has also taken a few more photographs for it as well. So there's like this concluding portrait at the very end of the book of an Auckland-based Samoan surgeon and collector. So there's a series of portraits relating to his Tatau at the end of the book.
Yeah. So why would you say this book was such a success?
Well, I think in a way, when it first came out, I don't think Samoan Tatau was as well known as it is now. It was still kind of like breaking ground in terms of the visibility of Samoan Tatau for the New Zealand public and beyond. So in that sense, that first edition really was a kind of groundbreaker. But I think since then, it's been like, 10, 12 years since that first edition came out. We've seen this sort of extraordinary explosion, really, of the popularity of Tatau in general, but also these, interesting developments within Samoan Tatau as well.
Speaking on this, Peter, whaamonomole, o le asa vaenga I le teimi nei, wasili atu la le taua I le anga nuu wha Samoa I le teimi nei o le tatau nei lo le teimi lea sapu e na ia te le amatanga. So is the place of the Tatau and the Samoa more powerful and important now than it was when these images were first taken?
Well, I would say yes. I'd also direct people to Sean Mellon's essay in the book. It's a fascinating chapter, and also his discussion with Paulo on that subject. I think it's become hugely important now. I just had a friend who I had lunch with a couple of days ago who just had her malu done in Auckland, and she was so thrilled and so moved by the experience, and so happy, to have had her malu done. And I think that's kind of, indicative, really, of how Samoans today are kind of they're returning to this, what was a kind of a very old tradition, and also one that had been kind of I think it was sort of, it never stopped in Samoa, but it was kind of more marginal and frowned on by different different faiths. So I think but I think that has shifted. And I think the meaning of Tatau is much more tied to people's modern contemporary identity. their sense of themselves as Samoan today. It's a way to, look, there's everyone's Tatau is personal and different for them. So it's hard to really, overgeneralize. But I think there are sort of modern characteristics of the Tatau that come through in the book. When you look through the book, you're looking at immigrants who are being tattooed. The book tracks the first tafonga to come to Aotearoa, New Zealand. Pasina Sefo, Ken, I think is his name, and then followed by Paulo. That's the first time that Tatau had been taken beyond Samoa. So I mean, to another country, to in order to sort of follow the kind of out migrations of the 60s and 70s, and to kind of serve these new clients in this new country. I mean, I think in the process of doing that, they were really kind of modernizing and shifting the place and the value of Samoan Tatau.
Interesting. And so these are depicted through Mark Adams' photos, including the blurbs or the written paragraph. So what would you say is special about the photos that Mark Adams has produced for the book? And then could you also share, how do you think they reflect Tatau historically and in a contemporary sense?
Well, I think what's special about Mark Adams's book, his photographs, is his. I mean, I would describe his ethos and his aesthetic as a photographer as one that kind of respects the subject that he is photographing, whether that's a landscape or an urban scape, or men or women who are posing with their Tatau. He doesn't, do a lot to kind of interfere or get people to, pose a certain way. He really just allows people to be themselves, really. And I think that comes across in his photographs. And I think in terms of the connection between the present and the past, I mean, the malu and the pea still have this sort of recognizable structural form and placement on the body. It looks like pea of the past. I mean, there's been some, creative license around that, but essentially it's the same tradition. But I think what is changing in terms of what it meant in the past, where it really was, the ethnographers talk about it being a rite of passage, where young men would be tataued in the village, which gave them certain rights about, village ceremony and their right to participate in those ceremonies. I mean, that still goes on, I imagine, in Samoa, but I mean, I think in migrant contexts, in urban contexts, that it's not to be a songa emiti in a chiefly context. It's really being a Samoan in the world, wherever that might be and however that might want to express itself. But I think it does that through the Tatau. The Tatau does that for people.
Awesome.
And I think,
and wrapping it up, Peter, just because of our time this morning.
Yeah.
And so from from an author's perspective, o le avea I oi o tustala o le tusine, o le ase nau nau ta inga, po o se, what do you hope that the readers gain from this book?
Whoa, I hope that readers, for some readers, they will be familiar with Tatau. And I hope for those readers, they will find a sense of kind of affirmation about the value of it in the contemporary world. For readers who come to it out of, interest, I think they will be, I think they will be impressed with the richness of the tradition, the complexity of it. It's an art form that's still very much with the people. It's kind of, there are contemporary artists, contemporary Samoan artists who are making work that is inspired by Tatau. But the tradition itself is still with the tufunga tatatau. It's still with people, and I think that comes through in the book too.
Thank you so much, Peter, for taking the time out of your day to be with us. Any last words before we wrap it up? Where can we find the book?
I think you could. It came out in bookstores yesterday, so most bookstores should have them. I know, Whitcoulls and Unity Books down here have it. So, yeah, don't wait.
Yes, definitely. Whaptai lava Peter, mo le nei tai au, ia manuia lava singa mga luenga o le awhia ngai malau sunga i le nei. So thank you so much and have a great day, Peter.
Whaptai lava.
Whaatalanoanga nā ma le tustala ia Peter Brunt le sa tusia le tusi whaingoa ina o le Tatau Samoan Tattoo New Zealand Art Global Culture lea ua mawhai o na mawaina I lunga o penga ta whailangi pia e fia mai moa ia I ata fo'i ia matustusinga sa ngā lulu e ai nisi fo'i o tamali I o le atunuu